Good evening, ladies and gents. This is another installment, episode 3 of SWAC recruiting. This is the Southern Baller Show. I have my co-host, Coach 67 Sports TV. How you doing today, brother?
I'm blessed and highly favored, bro. What's good with you?
I cannot complain, man. Every day above ground is a blessing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we're gonna forgive me, guys. I had personal issues going on, so we missed a week. Um, of this show. We could have done this earlier, but like I said, I had personal obligations to take care of. So thank you guys for bearing with me. Uh, Today we're going to go over Alcorn State and FAMU recruiting class of 2023. Now, disclaimer: both ball clubs may be adding pieces going toward this season to their roster. So these recruits may not stay with the team, or there may be more people on the team, and also the information that we're going up off of may change or maybe a little bit off. So please bear with us. So, Coach, first thing I want to say, I'm kind of upset that we didn't get to do it. Not upset, but I was eager to do it last week, because you know what happened last week, Coach? The Legacy Bowl, HBCU Legacy Bowl.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And which is one of the topics we're going to go into before we go into the two teams going over their recruiting classes. So, question I have for you, Coach: what were your thoughts on the HBCU Legacy Bowl? Who stood out?
Well, I watched the Legacy Bowl from start to finish. First of all, I didn't know it was going to be in Yulman Stadium, and for those individuals that are familiar with Yulman Stadium is Tulane University's home stadium. So I didn't know it was in New Orleans. Had I known, I would have gone myself. But I didn't know that, and it was refreshing seeing, just like for the Super Bowl, with all the pageantry and a lot of HBCU legends like Doug Williams, who had a lot of his great moments, because at the time it wasn't the Bayou Classic, but they still played it in New Orleans, and they played it at old Tulane Stadium, not the new Yulman Stadium that they're playing in now. And of course, he was MVP back in those days. So they had, they had Doug Williams. They had a lot of, legends, from a lot of these HBCUs that, came out and supported. Also, they had, Teron Armstead. For those individuals that don't know, he used to be the starting left tackle for the New Orleans Saints. He was a SWAC player, left tackle. So, I mean, they had those type of players, and then they had players that also either played for the Saints or just played for different HBCUs. At one point they interviewed James Winston, who's a quarterback that's on the Saints roster. Basically they talked about, for him the impact of the Legacy Bowl, and in addition to that, they also talked about like what's his future going to be with the Saints. He has 1 year left on his contract. A lot of speculation is that the Saints are going to cut him and maybe get another veteran quarterback, maybe Derek Carr, whatever the case may be. So his future is somewhat limbo. And in addition to that, more than likely they may draft a quarterback, but that's another topic for another day. But in terms of the Legacy Bowl itself, it was a defense the defense dominated that particular game.
Yes, Lord.
The offense really didn't get a whole lot done, a whole lot accomplished. As a Southern fan, I was really looking forward to see what Glenn the Bubba McDaniel could do, on that stage in a game of this magnitude. But to be truthful, like on both sides of the ball, both defenses dominated, and it was, if I mean, don't get me wrong, I know in certain exhibition games, the offense may dominate because you have a whole lot of rules that favor the offense. Even with the rules that favor the offense, I guess maybe because the offenses didn't have, a lot of continuity, a lot of time together, like you would in a normal team where, you would go through spring training and you'll go through summer camp and then fall camp and then into the season. Maybe they were disjointed. They didn't have a whole lot of, time together, to build a rapport, to develop continuity. But the defense is dominated. And to be truthful, I was going to recap it on my channel. I still may. But to be truthful, it really wasn't nothing to really write home about because the defense pretty much dominated the entire game. And for those individuals that didn't watch the game, the offensive MVP for the Legacy Bowl was Xavier Smith, who's a wide receiver at Florida A&M, and he stood out the most. I mean, he didn't have the normal big games he had at FAMU this year, but he played well. His speed was on display. His route running was on display, so he played good. But more than anything, from on the defensive side, Southern defensive tackle / nose guard Jason Dumas, he was the defensive MVP. He really stood out. He did an excellent job shooting gaps, getting a lot of penetration, a lot of pressure, and for the most part, all the quarterbacks were under constant duress. Even with the modified rules, teams had to play 4-3. They wasn't allowed to blitz. On special teams, they weren't allowed to rush the kick and the punter. But even with all that being said, like all quarterbacks that played in the game were under constant pressure, constant duress. And Jason Dumas, he was able to fly around and make a lot of plays. And to be truthful, I mean, it wasn't really, you know, it's really not a whole lot to recap in that particular game. If you just sat down and you broke down the numbers, I mean, it really doesn't paint a picture of how dominant the defenses were during the course of that game. And those two players stood out the most. And even Jason Dumas, I mean, there were times where, for the most part, you want to rotate players in and you want to get, some of the players that didn't start the game out initially, into the mix. But, he was on the field quite often. So I think that might have been a part of the reason why, he impacted the game from a defensive standpoint. And, in certain instances, they put him in the game at fullback also because, he's only like 5'10". He's only like, 275, 280. So I think maybe they were speculating that maybe he might be too short to play defensive tackle or nose guard in the NFL or the USFL or the XFL or whatever, CFL or whatever route he decides to take or, whatever's available for him in terms of, trying to play on the next level. So just in case, he got some reps at fullback. And, for the most part, I think his stock is up, after his performance last Saturday.
I agree. I agree. And basically, you stole my well, you didn't stole because you watched the same game we watched. Me, all three of us, me, you, Jay Good, were texting amongst each other about what we saw, and you pretty much hit the nail on the head. Uh, Dumas and the other, I'm blanking on his name, the other Southern tackle,
Oh, you talking about Peterson?
Peterson. They
Yeah.
showed out in the middle. Dumas just, even though he's 5'10", he was getting pressure. He seemed unblockable a lot of times, and Peterson was pretty much the same way, couldn't be blocked. What I liked how they had both. They had on Team Gaither, they had mostly MEAC and CIAA schools, And Team Robinson, they had mostly SWAC and a sprinkle of NAIA schools, like Langston University and schools like that. And I think couple of CIAA as well, but it was sprinkled all out. But of course, Xavier Smith showed it was only the offensive uh, spotlight that showed uh, during the game. He was caught. He caught a pass from Larry Livingston from Langston University, who was the only quarterback to throw a touchdown during the game, which I was impressed with because uh, there's this guy, a quarterback, from an NAIA school, and he threw over basically MEAC and CIAA defenders, which I was very impressed with. Uh, but those who did not watch it and don't know are not familiar with what we're talking about, every year after mainly the football season, um, all the best HBCU players have a game called the HBCU Legacy Bowl, and it has the best players from the SWAC, MEAC, CIAA, NAIA, doesn't matter. If you was the best team in Texas College, you may get an invite to the Legacy Bowl. But there's the score on the bottom of our screen. Team Robinson won, which was mostly SWAC. So you can pretty much safe to say the SWAC pretty much represented it during that game. And like Coach said, it wasn't really much to go on about. I mean, it was mostly a defensive game. Coach, before we move on, what defensive player, if you, so most of these players are like Hosea Land or uh, Jordan Lewis, are looking to have a roster spot in the NFL, which I don't think Jordan Lewis even played, Coach.
He didn't even play in the game. And the ironic thing about it is, the Peterson kid played, but the only defensive lineman for Southern that made an all SWAC team was Taj Brown, and he didn't even play in the game. Now, I understand like maybe this sort of game might not have been fit for him, is because he was more of a run stopper, and you have to realize he really was able to get a lot accomplished during the course of the season because Jason Dumas and Jordan Lewis drew a lot of attention during the course of the season. And, in Southern's front, Taj Brown played side Jason Dumas. And Jason Dumas, in many instances, he got double teamed or whatever the case may be. And, Taj Brown was the run stopper. He really, in many instances, he came off the field, on passing situations. So for the most part, Jordan Lewis and Jason Dumas were the biggest names for Southern. But, oftentimes during the course of the year, they were neutralized. And, they didn't have the impact that the two of them thought, many individuals thought they were going to have during the course of the season. And, I know from a Jordan Lewis standpoint, even though he played with his hand in the dirt the previous year, for the most part, he was kind of like a hybrid defensive end outside linebacker. He did some blitzing, but and of course in passing situations, they would line him up in the wide nine and he just would come off the edge because he was faster than most of the offensive tackles he was playing against. However, this year, he played exclusively defensive end, and he somewhat got exposed. And in terms of Jason Dumas, he didn't have the same impact he had when he played for under Coach Juliet Prairie View. The reason being is because he's got so much attention this year. So, considering the two of them played on the same side most of the year, They really didn't have the kind of impact that many, myself included, thought they would have.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. Uh, but what I was gonna ask is, since defense was basically still in the show during the game, was there any players that you thought defensive wise could basically make an NFL roster? Gonna be and I'm before you answer, one of the and I'm blanking on the young man's name, but that cornerback from Kentucky State that was like 6'2", 6'3", he was hitting everything that was moving.
I mean, to be truthful, bro, uh, it's kind of difficult to say. The reason being, the only SWAC player that I was 100% certain was going to go to NFL and was going to be a good player and be productive, you know, in my time watching SWAC players, was uh, Steve McNair. I mean, when he went to the NFL, I might have been either in 8th or 9th grade, but he was such a force of nature. I knew he was going to go to NFL and be productive. But however, outside of him, you know, even Mathis that played for the Colts, bro, as good as that defense was, as good as he was, he had like 20 sacks his senior year. I did not know or did not think he was gonna be as good as he was in the NFL. Because they won a SWAC championship his senior year. And I remember the next year, the reason why I remember him so vividly is because the next year, Southern won the SWAC championship, and when they played Southern, they were like, "Oh, we're gonna do what we did the previous year." I think they sacked like Quincy Richard. He one of the Southern quarterbacks I talk about a lot. Like in terms of my pantheon of Southern quarterbacks, like Quincy Richard is right under. He's right under Eric Randall, and the reason being, Randall had a better career because he started 3 years and won 2 SWAC championships. But in terms of like a singular season, like Quincy Richard had the best like singular season of any Southern quarterback that I've seen. And the issue with him was he was injured. He was very injury prone. He was hurt. When he became the starter sophomore year, he was often hurt. He was often hurt his junior year. And when he played against Texas Southern, I'm sorry, not Texas Southern. I mean Alabama A&M. When he played against Alabama A&M, he was hurt at that point. And at the time, I was thinking, I'm like, if he's hurt this often, Coach Richardson, like, why are you still starting this guy? Why not start Thomas Ricks, who he barely beat out for the starting position? But he stuck with him, and his senior year, he just had a phenomenal senior season. And Alabama and them just thought they were going to do what they did the previous year, and they didn't realize that, he made a quantum leap, the way Joe Burrow did his junior year to his senior year at LSU. That's how much better Quincy Richard was his senior year. And like I said, Mathis, he had 20 sacks the previous year, and I wasn't even certain that he would make it to the NFL. So, the guys that I thought would make it, in many instances, some of these guys didn't. Some of the guys that did make it, I didn't think they would make it. Some of the guys that I thought would make it, didn't make it. So it's kind of hit or miss, bro. It's difficult to tell. Even Tavares Jackson, I didn't know if he would make it. Teron Armstead was kind of under the radar for me. So a lot of these guys that made it to the NFL and, played well, even Jerry Wilson Jr. was a cornerback from Southern. I mean, he mostly was just like a nickelback for the Miami Dolphins his whole entire time there. So a lot of these guys, you don't know whether they're gonna make it or not because
That's true.
some of the guys like from Southern, like John Williams or Lenny Williams or Mike Hayes, in my opinion, I thought those guys for certain were gonna make it to the NFL. With Mike Hayes' situation, it was injury thing, where the New England Patriots didn't medically clear him because when he broke his leg his second to last year at Southern, which was his 5th year, he, I guess he didn't fully heal to the Patriots liking. But some of the other guys that I thought for certain were gonna make it, they didn't even make it. So it's kind of
That's
hit or miss.
that's true, and I got some couple of players that will confirm what you're saying. Salute to Jay Barr in the chat. He said salute family in chat, and
Salute, bro.
he said Coach 67. What do you think was the highlights of the Legacy Bowl? I think we already covered it, but
Yeah, I mean, like I said, for the most part, on the offensive side, Xavier Smith, his speed was on display. Even though he didn't have not like an electrifying moment in terms of like maybe like a big punt return or kickoff return or anything like that. I think from the offensive standpoint, he was clearly the best player. And from a defensive standpoint, the Legacy Bowl, it just kind of showed what Jason Dumas was capable of doing during the course of the season for Southern. He just didn't get a chance to do it because, he was often doubled. And even when he wasn't doubled, basically, there were a couple of instances where, offensive lineman he played against, it was like a bad matchup for him. But more often than not, he was doubled. But he showed that he really could shoot gaps because people don't realize, you know, at one point, both him and Taj Brown, when they were in high school, they were linebackers, both of them. And, in college, they both, playing defensive tackle. And, he was showing that, he could shoot gaps and he's quick off the ball. In certain instances, I remember one play, like, him and the other defensive lineman, Peterson kid from Southern, like they both, was in the race to see who was gonna hit the quarterback first. And pretty much like the offensive line, the 5 offensive linemen up front almost didn't block anyone. So I think, the major imprint, the thing that stood out for me during the course of the game is the fact that, man, bro, the offensive line struggled on both sides. Defense got a lot of pressure.
yeah, the offensive line did struggle. It was kind of hard to watch. If anybody who in standards of um fanatics of watching or fans of watching the offensive line, it was kind of hard to watch. Um, but like people like Nick Collins and Robert Mathis, if you watch if you watch Robert Mathis from Alabama State, his highlight from Alabama State wasn't like eye popping like that. But once he got in the NFL, he just turned it on. And same thing with Nick Collins when he was at Bethune Cookman. You know what I mean? I mean he was doing his thing, but you you know how the stigma is for SWAC and MEAC or any HBCU ball club. Oh, they're playing good against that level of team. But once the caliber player like Robert Mathis or Nick Collins or um, players of that nature, they show that they are Pro Bowlers or they can be starters in the NFL. Like you said, a lot of times you don't even see it.
And I mean, to be truthful, bro, like, give you example, like Scotty Henderson. When he was at Grambling, I mean, don't get me wrong, he was always real finesse. He was a real pretty boy. But he made a lot of big plays, in Grambling. And, the reason why I was so confident that Mike Hayes would make it to the NFL, Micah Hayes, even though he wasn't as fast as Scotty Henderson, he was every bit the wide receiver, if not even more so than what Scotty Anderson was. But I didn't foresee him getting hurt the way he got hurt his 4th year. If anybody can interview him, because, in terms of like, list of players I want to interview, he's like towards the top of that list. I'm almost certain if he could go back and do it again, he probably would have like foregone his 5th year eligibility at Southern, to go to the NFL because as good as Scott Anderson was, in my opinion, like Michael Hayes was a little bit better. He wasn't as fast, but Michael Hayes was big and strong. You know, Scott Anderson was like 6'2". You know, Mike Hayes was like 6'5", like 215. So, you know, that's the thing I think about. You know, when I think about these kind of things, it's like, you know, timing is everything too when it comes to these type of things. You know,
Yeah.
so you know, had he not got hurt, I think he probably would have made it in the NFL. And you know, even when they played in like bigger teams against like Tulane or whoever the case may be, you know, he didn't get the kind of shine he really should have gotten. But I think Coach Richardson, you know, from an offensive standpoint, they didn't do a good job getting him the ball the way they did, you know, during the regular SWAC games. You know, I remember they played against Tulane, and like he only got like a handful of touches, and he didn't get many yards. I'm like, they should have made a conscious effort to get him the ball. Whereas, you know, even I remember, I don't know if you know Jarvis Landry that plays for the Saints, where
Yeah.
he had an
Wide
older
receiver.
brother. Yeah, he had an older brother named Gerard Landry that played for Southern, and he was a wide receiver also, but he was kind of like a hybrid wide receiver tight end. And bro, he was, you know, he was like 6'2", 210. And when he caught passes, like he would just run through arm tackles, you know, run smaller DBs over. And I remember we went to see them play against Alabama State, and bro, they bragged him the whole game. He only got caught like 2 passes the whole game. And I'm like, bro,
Wow.
but Richardson he had to do a better job getting him the ball, you know. So
Speaking with
sometimes,
Cole Richardson, he was honored during the game, the Legacy Bowl too.
yes, sir, he was.
And we say all that to say this, folks. Don't sleep on these HBCU plays just because they coming from a HBCU or a Kentucky State or a Langston University. Doesn't mean they won't pop out of nowhere and do their thing in the NFL. So because I know one thing, that kid Jai Nunn Liddell, he was playing cornerback. He was
Hmm.
sticking, man. He
Yeah,
was sticking.
and bro, the thing people don't realize is like, you know, some of your greatest NFL players like Jerry Rice, Walter Payton, Mel Blunt. A lot of these guys went to HBCUs like, you know, Jackson State, like Mississippi Valley, like Southern. So, you know, I mean, I know it's a different day and era where, you know, we're not playing in the era of segregation and Jim Crow laws. However, you know, you still have like talent that flies under the radar that makes it to the NFL every year. Because, you know, even as a Saints fan, you know, if you told me Teron Armstead was going to be as good as he was, of course, you know, he another one. Injuries really was the reason why the Saints let him go. But for years, he was the best offensive lineman the Saints had, and he played in the SWAC. So, you know,
Oh, look at James Houston. You know, a lot of people had that um, was saying that okay, he was getting all them sacks against, HBCU or FCS type school defense offensive lineman. Look what he doing. Look what he did last year.
yep. I mean, that's the thing, you know. Nowadays, if someone has talent, it doesn't matter where that talent is. You know, people are fine. You could be a Division 2, Division 3 guy. I think nowadays, you know, that talent is going to be found. You know, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of talent. You know, that played in the SWAC over the years that somebody found. I mean, who'd have thought? You know, Jerry Rice would have became what he became out of Mississippi Valley, or uh, Walter Payton would have became what he became coming out of Jackson State. You know, or Steve McNair would have became what he became coming out of Alcorn State. So, you know,
Or Michael Strahan
Michael
or
Strahan from
Antoine
Texas
Beth-
Southern.
Antoine Bethea from Howard.
Yeah,
Yeah. Nick Collins from Bethune Cook, man. Uh, Robert Mathis from Alabama State. All of them, man.
yeah,
All of them.
yeah,
As soon as they put on uh, NFL uh, uniform, man, they just did their thing. So, like we've been saying, man, you just don't know. So,
yeah. You don't know. It's hit or miss. I mean, and it's not just hit or miss with, the SWAC players, but just watching the combine. I mean, some of these guys, you know, like over the years, like I said, probably, you got guys that, like I remember, I don't know, this might be before your time. There was this guy named Mike Mamula. He played for the Philadelphia Eagles. Like at the time, he set so many combine records. They thought, Mel Kiper Jr. thought he was going to be like an all-time great defensive player. This guy only made one Pro Bowl. You know what I'm saying? So even just looking at the combine, I mean, some guys can excel when they have shorts and t-shirt on and running these, whether it's running the 40 or bench pressing or running routes or whatever the case may be. But it's different when you're on the field and you're playing against actual players and you have pads and helmet and everything on. It's different.
The tape
So
don't lie. You
yeah.
remember Orlando Brown Jr. He had one of the worst recorded combine stats or numbers in NFL history. I think he a 4-time Pro Bowl. Already got I want to say 2 Super Bowl. Well, yeah, he got one and they got a Super Bowl ring just a few weeks ago with
Mm-hmm.
With Patrick Mahomes. So
Yeah.
and considered one of the best tackles in the NFL. So and this dude 6'8", 345 pounds, and could lift 225 14 times. But if you look, if I was always told by coaches, don't go by that, go by the
What they
tape.
do on the field. Yeah.
If you look on the tape when he was in Oklahoma, he was pushing people like right away. Like I mean, he was moving people out the way like they wasn't nothing. So a lot of
And,
times the combine doesn't it don't really pinpoint
yeah.
how good a player
The
is.
combine can't tell you because even someone like Jerry Rice, I mean, of course, the combine wasn't really as prevalent in those days. But, they were saying in terms of his 40 time, like, I think Jerry Rice only ran like a 4.5, 4.6. But guess what? When you put him on the field, he was literally running away from defensive backs. So, you like you said, game film and what players actually do on the field, it doesn't lie because, you don't play the game on paper. So,
Exactly, exactly. And coach, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to we're going to we're gonna do Alcorn State class first. 2023 class. And before we go any further, please like and subscribe and share the video. Appreciate you guys for watching. Yeah, please click that like button. I really would appreciate it. Thank you. But you know how we do it. I'm gonna share my screen and we're gonna go over the players and see what we can find some videos the best we can. So if we're not able to find all the players tape, please charge. You know, I'm sorry, but let's do this.
well, I mean, before you actually get into the footage,
Hmm.
get into the tape, you know, many people saying depending on what Alcorn State recruiting class looks like, they think they really like a dark horse favorite to win the SWAC West. And the SWAC West, you know, people anticipated being kind of top heavy. We don't know how Grambling is going to progress from, their first year under Hugh Jackson to this coming season. But, Southern, you know, even though it's anticipated that Southern is one of the top teams in the SWAC West, you still have question marks with the offensive and defensive line and who's going to be the starting quarterback between Dylan Moreau and Noah Barton. And, even Harold Blood, people don't realize, even though he looked pretty mediocre in the SWAC championship game, he's been in Coach Dooley's system. So, hey, I mean, he's still a threat to become the starting quarterback at Southern. So, you have a lot of question marks at Southern. You know, at Grambling, the running game was great, but the defense, in the passing game, wasn't what many people wanted it to be. But the way they ran the ball, like you said, Frank Chalk the Ford is kind of like, in your opinion, like at the end of the season was like your favorite running back in the SWAC. So, it's a lot of moving parts between Southern and Grambling.
Yes.
And many people pick, Alcorn State and Prairie View to be right there at the top. So the SWAC West is pretty top heavy, and depending on how good Alcorn State, how good the recruiting class is, it could move them, you know, in the top of that pecking order. I mean, it kind of remains to be seen, but it's going to be interesting, to see what the SWAC, looks like from top to bottom. And I know, I don't want to jump the gun, but I know, pretty much you say this, this breakdown is for Alcorn State and FAMU. And the ironic thing is, many people pick, FAMU to win the SWAC East, but Alcorn State is right in the hunt, to win the SWAC West.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to shout out to one of the best, in my opinion, as far as breaking down film. One of the best people on YouTube. Of course, he does Baltimore Raven, but he actually a coach like yourself, Coach 67. But this is Sip the Tally Films. Go and show him some love. Go subscribe. Um, Subscribe to his Patreon. He's one of the best, and he knows what he's talking about.
Salute to you, bro.
He says Jaquez Yant will be a beast. Play for me and transfer to FAMU from Nebraska.
Whoa.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna try to see if I can find his video, Coach.
And and while you're trying to get the footage in terms of film study, one thing that we were talking about, a few weeks back was, a lot of Southern fan base was really like agitated and upset at Coach Dooley because they felt like, for the exception of the kid Zay that came from Scotlandville High, they felt like he didn't recruit the Baton Rouge area, good enough. Many people still have this, this old school mindset that, I don't know if you saw the U documentaries
Yo,
on
yes,
30 for
absolutely.
30. Pretty
Yes.
much there was this mindset that if uh if coaches like recruited the surrounding areas, just that talent alone would be enough to win a national championship. And in the 90s, mid to late 90s, many people had that same mindset when it came to Southern. Basically, if you recruited that I-10 corridor from Baton Rouge to New Orleans, that just those players alone would be enough to win you a SWAC championship. But like Coach Dooley was saying, we live in a different day, in a different era, and essentially the transfer portal, uh, you know, life as we know it still being in the pandemic. Because you go in stores and stuff, things are open now. However, you still have COVID spikes and people still dying every day from it. But, with COVID, the transfer portal has changed the game from the standpoint of, whereas, in the late 90s, I see this all the time. P. Richardson, he feasted off of transfers from LSU. However, back in those days, you had to transfer from, a PWI to a lower level school. So if just say for example, I was a player at LSU and I wanted to play right away, I couldn't transfer to Mississippi State, transfer to Louisiana Tech, transfer to Alabama or Arkansas, whatever. I had to transfer to a school from an FBS level to an FCS level to play right away. And the thing about it is, prior to COVID, a lot of those players, what they were doing, they were transferring from one PWI to another PWI, or a PWI to like a JC, then to another PWI. But with COVID and with the transfer portal, basically it's gone back to somewhat to the way it was in the mid to late 90s, where these players were transferred from Power 5 schools, back down to FCS level schools, and to me seemed like with Coach Prime doing what he did at Jackson State, seemed like a lot of players are transferring from PWIs, uh, and basically they transferring to SWAC and MEAC and HBCU schools just in general. So it's going to be interesting to see how things play out this particular season. But Coach Dooley was saying the reason why he really didn't recruit a lot of players, coming out of high school, and he didn't recruit, the area. Basically, he just was adjusting to the landscape and the way things has changed, since the transfer portal has come in existence. So basically, he just was adjusting, the best he could to the way things are. And if you look at the amount of players that transferred from, PWIs to like Jackson State and to FAMU and the other HBCUs, he pretty much was, in his mind, I think he felt like it was an arms race, and I kind of have to do what I need to do to keep up with the Joneses, So that that was the reason why he did what he did.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Um, Coach said, I appreciate you. Coach said he got some I-10 players.
Oh yeah, I mean, for the most part, it, and those I-10 players from Baton Rouge to New Orleans. It's rich in talent, and don't get me wrong. Coach Richardson, in those late '90s, he had a lot of those I-10 corridor players. He had a lot of them, but he did get a lot of transfers from LSU. That was the reason why. We talk about this all the time, bro. Nick Saban, before he left LSU and went to the Miami Dolphins, he pretty much put that block where players couldn't transfer from LSU to Southern. Now they were able to transfer if they wanted to, maybe from like LSU to maybe like Grambling or Jackson State or another, surrounding school. But LSU just like literally right across town from Southern. So I guess too many players was leaving their program to come to Southern, right across town. So I guess it was too easy and too convenient. So he had to put a stop to that.
Okay. And I got that Jacquez Yant boy queued up. What Coach Sip the Tally mentioned. So we're gonna go over the real fast. It's a short list. Unfortunately, I know there's probably more. But we're gonna go over a lot of the basically the mainly the Tyler Macon and O'Mary Blake's Marion Blake, excuse me. Basically those two. So looking at the list, they have O'Marion Blake. He's from Shaw, Mississippi. Wide receiver, 6', 180. He is a 3-star. Ashton Watkins from Chisholm Trail, Fort Worth, Texas. He's an athlete, 6'6", 205. He looked like he probably could do anything from tight end, defensive end. Okay. Roderick Hartsfield, quarterback from Waxahachie, Texas. I know about Waxahachie. They had pretty good ball clubs, high school wise, down here in Texas. 6'1", 205. Okay. Tyler Macon from East St. Louis. 6 200 quarterback. He's a 3-star. He's a Missouri transfer. And Colin Scott, defensive lineman, 6'2", 286 from Plaquemine, Louisiana. I probably pronounced it wrong.
No, it's Plaquemine, Louisiana.
Okay, Plaquemine, Louisiana. He's 6'2", 286 from southeastern Louisiana. He's a transfer.
Okay.
So go back a little bit. So the video that I have of Marion Blake's, I pulled off a huddle, and we're gonna visualize it and see what this young man has. And of course, I'm gonna get Coach I'm gonna get your feedback on it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Got the commercials.
Happen unexpectedly to anyone.
So you say they recruit him as an athlete, right?
Wide receiver.
Wide receiver, okay. I mean, one thing that I noticed about him that really stands out, bro, he had speed. I mean, he had speed. He's clearly an athlete. He definitely is. The thing that
I am Trill Will. Salute the
salute,
general.
bro.
Salute.
Salute, bro.
Love y'all.
Love y'all.
Love all
LGBT
y'all.
family. But yeah, bro. Like I was saying, I mean, he has a lot of speed. One thing I noticed, it just seems like he's just a better athlete than everybody he's up against. However, like once he gets in the SWAC play, I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see can he just run away from defenders like that if he gets the ball in open space. And in addition to that, if he's gonna play wide receiver, he's gonna have to develop some route running skills because it seems like he from an athletic standpoint he's pretty raw. I mean, they had him, as a punt returner in this particular film. He played some wide receiver, some quarterback. So he's clearly an athlete. But he's gonna have to become polished, and he's gonna have to work on some basics and fundamentals. But just from a pure speed standpoint, one of my coaches used to tell me all the time, he was like, "You can't coach speed. Either you have it or you don't."
That's right. That's right.
He has it in spades, bro. I mean, he jumps off the video in terms of, just being a dynamic playmaker in terms of, once he gets the ball and he gets out in space, defenders are just like, they're just waving at him because they can't catch him.
But he's definitely an athlete, man.
Oh, he's clearly an athlete, like I say. I mean, he has wheels. He has a set of jets. I mean, he could get in and go, But like I say, I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see, like I say in the SWAC, Are they gonna use him exclusively as a wide receiver? Are they gonna put him in motion and give him the ball on a jet sweep? Maybe reverse or end around.
I think old Fred McNair will figure something out.
Yeah, I mean, get him the ball out in space in terms of screens. I mean, because for the most part, I've seen him catch the ball, but I've only seen him like catch the ball like on a handful of instances. I mean, in a few of these instances, they just kind of got him the ball out in space in terms of, throwing him a tunnel screen, a jailbreak break screen, just to get him the ball out in space, just so he can get the ball in his hands. So, and it's crazy because, in high school and middle school, when you have an athlete like that, many instances, coaches just want throwing the ball down the field, as many times as they could. But in this particular instance, like the first few, highlights you saw him catching the ball, they just wanted him to get the ball out in space so he could just, do his thing, So, like I said, he's athletic, he has speed. So it's going to be interesting to see how he transitions to the next level. And I mean, another thing that's interesting too, in high school, when these players are elite and they are dynamic, they play a variety of different positions. And it's clear that for them, we used to call them satellites. Nowadays, they call them jokers. They call them satellites. A variety of different things. Basically, a player that can play multiple positions. They can play quarterback, play running back, play wide receiver, play defensive back. So it's clear and transparent. They use them in a variety of different roles. So, that versatility is something that, down the line, they, like I say, instead of him just playing just wide receiver, he may play wide receiver. He may play running back. He may be a punt and kick returner. They use him as a wildcat quarterback. Maybe in like certain situations, they might put him on defense. So,
Okay.
It's clear that he has that type of versatility. But like I said, more than anything, he seems from an athletic standpoint just to be such a good athlete that he's raw. But, as a wide receiver, they may, want to polish his skills. Because like I said, even, they have him at quarterback running zone read option, So, I mean, he's clearly an athlete, bro.
I definitely see that because they got him scoring from everywhere.
Everywhere, running back, wide receiver, punt returner. He caught a pick six as a DB. So, like I said, his versatility is off the charts. But like I said, most like real dynamic players in wide receiver. Most dynamic players in high school, they play a variety of different positions. Like I said, wide receiver, running back, quarterback, defensive back, punt returner, kick returner, whatever the case may be.
Like quarterback again.
Yeah, I mean, and the ideology and the mindset and the thought pattern behind, that is essentially you want your best player to touch the ball as many times as you can. So that's why, like in middle school, as a coach, many like coaches they put their best player at running back, or even yet they put their best player at quarterback, and they just might go empty and just let him run the ball like every play. You want your best player to touch the ball as much as he could. So that's the reason why you see a lot of dynamic athletes in high school play quarterback. That way you touch the ball every single play. So
Yeah, and that was Omarion Blake's folks. He looks like a damn good athlete. But like the Coach 67 said, looks like he needs to polish his wide receiver skills, which I think Fred McNair has the tools to do so. But we will have to sit back and see. So a salute to that young man. Salute. Tyler Macon, he's actually a transfer from Mizzou.
and that's the thing about it. He coming from an SEC school, So it's gonna be interesting to see, you know, how dynamic of an athlete he is.
Right, exactly. So what I'm gonna do is I actually have some film here on YouTube that we're going to see, and of course, Coach, I want your feedback, of course.
But like you said, the previous kid we was telling about Amarion, like I said, they're gonna get him and they're gonna coach him up. Once he hits, his campus.
Right.
Yeah. So evidently, that he released his practice footage. Did he release it on Twitter? Like what social media platform you were able to get it off? Oh, they got it off.
No, this is just YouTube.
Oh, okay.
All Script actually did a show, um, breaking him down as well, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah, no copyright strikes.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, even though it would fall under fair use because, we would be analyzing what he did, but like you said, it's better just go off YouTube and just have us give our own commentary on it.
Exactly.
So what do you think so far, bro?
Uh, a few plays back, it was like the second play. If I saw one play, I saw the defensive end. If it was live, he actually would have been sacked.
Uh-huh.
So for Miles, he needs to work on getting the ball out of there a little bit more quicker.
I mean, one thing I noticed is, he has solid fundamentals and mechanics,
Yes.
but you could tell he's not really like a overwhelming athlete, at the quarterback position, because a lot of these quarterbacks nowadays, they dual threat
Yeah.
and they can run and pass. He's clearly not gonna be that guy. He's gonna be, like our brother would say, he was gonna be, Brent Fox. Salute to Brent Fox. He's gonna be more like a statuesque pocket passer. And like you said, if he's gonna be a statuesque pocket passer, he's gonna need to get rid of the ball quick. He's gonna need to be able to make quick decisions and get rid of the ball quickly.
Let me try. I feel like I'm gonna try to get more video from him. If not, we're just gonna play his high school. But I'm trying to get more of him when he was at Mizzou.
But another thing too, they show quite a bit of 7-on-7 footage. From a coaching standpoint, I was never big on trying to use 7-on-7 to evaluate talent. The reason being is because I've seen, especially here like in Louisiana, teams that win 7-on-7 championships, but you get them into the regular season and they're only getting a few wins. And I'm like, the team that won the state championship, hey, you beat them 7-on-7, but when you add in the dynamic and the component of having offensive and defensive alignment on the field, and it's 11-on-11, right? It's entirely different ball game, And of course, I've seen some instances where some teams that are like exceptional in terms of 7-on-7, they have a tendency to be a little bit, soft. And when you add in the line component, they get punched in the mouth. So from a quarterbacking standpoint, the fact that you don't have that pressure on you, like you said, he, had a defensive end been there, he might have got sacked. So, that's one thing I take into consideration. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know these kids, they play year round nowadays. That's the reason why, you have so many players that can play as true freshmen right away, as opposed to like the earlier mid-90s. You had to at least be a sophomore in many instances. Especially at a Power Five school, you didn't get to play like till you like your junior senior year. Whereas nowadays, players are able to start as a true freshman now.
But head on, coach. One thing I don't think he's a like you as you said, like a statue quarterback, because I found um a game last year versus Vanderbilt, and
Mm-hmm.
basically he ran it in. Uh, I'm about to play it now. Okay, is this play coming up?
All right.
This is him right here.
Yeah, I mean, when you said it, the impression I got it was going to be like a 90-yard run, but I'm not saying he,
I hear what you're saying, but like
yeah,
if he was like not athletic and slow, they wouldn't have
yeah,
had
yeah.
him
I
that
understand it.
play.
They wouldn't have put him in that goal line package. I understand that dynamic. Uh, so like you said, he a better athlete than I gave him credit for because, just watching him, he just was a pocket passer. And, in some instances, especially if you're a dual threat quarterback, in many instances you might not try to run because you're trying to show that you can throw the ball from the pocket. And especially even on 7-on-7, 7-on-7, you're not gonna take off and run. So I can see that. So yeah, he's a better athlete, but even with that being said, it was like what, less than a 5-yard run. So,
Yeah,
you know, and I
that's
mean,
very fair. Yeah,
and not only that, one other thing we have to take into consideration. I'm not saying that Vanderbilt is a bottom feeder team in the SEC, but he didn't run that touchdown against LSU or Alabama, University of Florida. He didn't, you know, it's not like Vanderbilt one of the better teams in the SEC defensively. So
right. So here's actually his high school. That's him, number 5.
okay.
And this is at East St. Louis.
All right. From what I see, I like his arm talent. It seems as if he played in like a West Coast type offense in terms of, you know, they may have run like maybe a lot of slants and crossing routes and timing routes where you give it a ball within a certain time frame. But like you were saying, he seemed like he's a decent athlete from the standpoint of you can put him in a goal line package, he could get you a touchdown, but not from the standpoint where he's like maybe like an Anthony Richardson who can get you a 60, 70-yard run. But he seems like he's more than athletic enough. And, the first pass he made, he showed uh, some decent arm strength. And then a couple throws after that, he seemed like he could put some touch on the ball also. So, I mean, he seems like a pretty well-rounded quarterback. And the fact that he came from Mizzou, a Power 5 school, it's going to be interesting to see, you know, if he can excel in the SWAC. Because I'm almost certain if he transferred from Mizzou, the intent is for him to start in the SWAC.
Right.
Because, I mean, just to give you an example, I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be this guy because, that would be extremely lofty and high praise. But I'm almost certain at Grambling they didn't anticipate Devontae Kincaid transferring from Ole Miss to Grambling just to be a backup.
Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty much safe to say that Macon is definitely going to be the starter.
More than likely, he's going to be the starter. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not a slam dunk because, like, I've seen instances where, I
Of
told you about
course.
this
Yeah.
weeks ago where the intent was for Victor Ike to be the feature back at Southern, and a few weeks in, he's sitting on the inner bench. So, but I'm almost certain the intent is for him. If he transfers from Mizzou to Southern, the intent is going to be for him to be a starter. And just to kind of correct one of the things we said earlier, it seems as if watching some of the highlights we watching of him, it does seem like, well, I mean, even though it still was high school, but it seemed like from a high school standpoint, he did get rid of the ball, pretty quickly in terms of going through his reads as quickly as he could and getting rid of the ball.
I was just that on that 7-on-7 film we watched.
But no, but like, I don't know if it was like the first or second pass.
Yeah, it was
No,
at the second play.
It was the third. No, it was the third pass. It wasn't 7-on-7.
Mm-hmm.
It was like actual game footage where he, by the time he hit his back foot, he was able to go through his progression and get rid of the ball quickly.
Okay.
But of course, it's not like he's throwing in tight windows in high school either. The guy that was running the skinny post or the slant, he was running wide open. So it wasn't like, he was under duress or he had any type of pressure. But once he hit his back foot, he was able to step up and go through his read right away and make the pass. So, but like I said, those passing windows are going to be, much tighter on a college level.
Yeah, they will.
Unless he has some, really dynamic playmakers and offensive line play.
So after looking a bit more film, I definitely was wrong. He definitely know how to get the ball out of there quick.
Yeah.
I know this is just high school, but he got that in him.
Yeah, and
if he learns how to do it in high school, he definitely can do it.
And I didn't mean to
in
cut
college.
you off,
Go ahead. No, you
I didn't
fine.
mean to cut you off, but he seems like he's a pretty well-rounded quarterback from the standpoint of, he made a couple runs, he made a lot of throws, he made some short to intermediate to deep throws. So it seems like he can kind of check all, tick all the boxes in terms of going through your checklist, what you're looking for in a quarterback, But
yeah,
even though, I say this as a coach all the time, it's called a highlight reel for a reason. So, what is he gonna do, day in and day out in practice? And in addition to that, when it's game time, what is he gonna do?
that's true. That's true. But he looks impressive.
Yeah.
Like you said, as far as a well-rounded quarterback.
And one other thing, like I said, I made this evaluation earlier, but he's not throwing into any incredibly tight windows. So, many instances, these guys running these slants. Clearly, like I said, their spread offense was like a West Coast type spread offense in terms of, it seems like they threw a lot of slants and crossing routes and that type of thing. A lot of them slants, those guys are running like wide open. And if not wide open, if the defense is playing zone or they playing man-to-man, whatever they're playing in some of those other instances, he's not throwing in a tight window. So it's going to be interesting to see when he has to make a contested throw, between a DB and a safety, between the corner and the safety. How is he going to be able to fit those passes in those tight windows? It's going to be interesting to see if he can answer some of these questions.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting. But I'm not gonna lie. He looks like day one starter. Of course, like you said, we never know. But he looks like gonna be day one starter for Fred McNair. He looks like he's not gonna be intimidated by the SWAC secondary, but we have to see.
Yeah.
We will have to see. I mean, we can run our mouth all day and we can go by film, but we will have to see when the season starts how things will play out. But the young man looks impressive, man. I like him. we're gonna go ahead and move on for time's sake to
FAMU.
FAMU.
Yeah.
And I actually like their setup, how they got it on their website.
Yeah, and I mean that's one thing too. When as a coach, when you're trying to evaluate game footage and game film, and you're just trying to analyze a recruiting class, in some of these instances, it's not a swag thing. It's just the fact that you know, at some of these schools, they social media team or whoever, they seem to be more tech savvy at certain schools than others. And in terms of the recruiting class, in some instances, you have easier access to you know the players they recruited and footage and so on and so forth. So, it's good that some schools, they really kind of take it serious. Like, hey, these are guys we recruited. This the footage of them, or these actual pictures of them, as opposed to you go to other schools' website and you just see a list of names and you're like, okay, who is this guy? So,
Right, right. But looking at, and as you can see, don't you like? Isn't that neat? They made it like like cards, like the display on their website. I like
yeah,
that.
yeah, that's what I say. That when it comes to social media, some of these schools are, a couple notches above other schools.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So going over the names, they got a punter, Trey Wilholt, running back Kelvin Dean, defensive back Deco Wilson, offensive lineman Ashton Grable, athlete Levante Somerset, wide receiver kick returner Jamari Gassett, defensive back Jalen Glaze, defensive line Sharif Say, defensive lineman Tyrese Gibson Battles, defensive back Marie Lee, running back what coach just said, Coach Sip to Tally Sport. Sip to Tally. Please go subscribe to his channel. One of the best channels on YouTube as far as breaking down film. And also, if you're a Baltimore Ravens fan, he's one of the best channels on YouTube. So please subscribe to that brother, man. He's doing it. Running back Jaquez Yant and defensive back Justin Bostic. Now, what? Since Coach mentioned him, and he was under coach, he mentioned us to basically check out, be on lookup for Jaquez Yant. So I'm gonna go ahead and share the video. I already got him queued up.
And before you get to the video of him, it's going to be interesting to see who's going to replace Xavier Smith, because with Musa returning, he's going to need some targets in terms of whether he's throwing the ball out the backfield or down the field. He's going to need a playmaker to kind of
Right.
offset the loss of Smith.
Yeah, Xavier Smith, he was basically go to on that FAMU offense. So definitely, yes, sir.
Yeah.
But this is Jaquez Yant, everybody. It's highlights against Northwestern.
Okay. He seems like, just these first couple runs, he seems like he's a one cut, get down here type running back. Not like for example, we talk about shifty running backs like maybe a Frank Chalk the Ford. I mean, he's not as elusive as somebody like Chalk, but I think in terms of just get down here and just making a play, he seems like he's gonna be that type of guy. And not only that, but one other thing I really noticed is looking at him on film, he seemed like he's gonna be bigger than an average SWAC running back, also.
Oh yes,
because
yes.
a lot of, I don't know if you noticed, we talk about even going back to like, the early, 90s with like maybe like Lindsey Scott Sr., Melvin Williams Jr. SWAC running backs have always had a tendency to be, like 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", 5'11", like maybe, 180, 190.
The biggest probably like 220.
Yeah, 220. That's why, if you ever heard me talk about the whole debate between Melvin Williams Jr. and Lionel Nicholas, it was more not the fact that Williams was a whole lot better, but they just were different type of backs. But he seems like
Ooh.
he's a bigger back. But if you give him a hole, he's one cut. He gets up the field. And even though he might not be as elusive as somebody like a Frank Chalk the Fourth, a Kendrick Grimes, if you give him a hole, he gonna make his one cut. He gonna get up field, and he can run the defender
You know
over
who
if
he
necessary.
remind me of? He's a bigger, stronger version of that running back from North Carolina Central.
Yeah. And I mean, somebody else he kind of reminds me of a bigger version of also too. The Southern running back Gerard Sims. I mean, Sims isn't as big as him, but Sims, I don't know if you noticed when Southern played, he's a complete contrast from from Kendrick Grimes and from all the other like smaller Southern running backs. He's a little bit bigger and he kind of has that same like one cut style, but it seems like Sims, even though he could run a couple guys over, this guy seems to have a little bit more power than
Man, these SWAC defenses better be on even the MEAC. If FAMU make it play, make it to the Celebration Bowl. I wouldn't be. I wouldn't as a linebacker. I wouldn't enjoy trying to come up, tackle him head up. He's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like he's the type of guy you're gonna have to gang tackle.
Let's see if we can find more on him because he look like a monster, man.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he's gonna be bigger than your average SWAC running back. He seems like he has decent straight line speed, but he's not gonna be as elusive as some of these other SWAC running backs. Like I said, like maybe like a Frank Chalk the Fourth, like a Kendrick Grimes, those type of backs. They small, like jitterbug, elusive type running backs. Whereas he's more of a bigger, more power back, one cut, get upfield. If necessary, I can run over a couple defenders. Just move the pile. So he seems like he's that type of back in terms of SWAC running backs, and I mean it'll be kind of refreshing to have that that kind of change of pace type of back.
Yeah, definitely will.
And I mean, hey, even him getting out and blocking on a quarterback sweep. I mean, hey. And that's another thing too. With the day and age we live in, with all the zone read option, it's good that you're gonna have a back that can kind of make, read what the offensive line is doing, where they blocking, run to the hole, make one cut, get up the field, Even though, like I said, he's not gonna be as elusive as a lot of other SWAC running backs. That's gonna be another thing too. He's gonna need to be able to catch the ball out the backfield. With all these spread teams nowadays, either you need to have a running back that can, block, pick up a blitz, or catch the ball out the backfield, do a little bit of both. Okay, taking an option pitch. All right.
It's safe to say that FAMU got them one, huh? In that
Yeah,
backfield.
And but that's another thing too. And we talk about not having prototypical SWAC running backs. Bro, fam, you had some big running backs this past year. So it seems as if he kind of fits the prototype they're looking for. Because when they played against Southern, bro, Southern DBs, they struggled. No lie, hey, they struggled to tackle those FAMU running backs. Man, that's why FAMU had so many rushing yards. They just was running over all the Southern linebackers and especially the DBs. And that's why Southern struggled so much on defense that particular game because they just couldn't tackle, especially those DBs, they couldn't tackle those running backs. So he seems to fit like that FAMU prototype. And the crazy thing about it, they were so worried about Xavier Smith. When they ran the ball, they was running over Southern DBs. And then when Southern really was gearing up to stop the run, then they start getting him the ball. Musa started getting the ball to Smith. And Southern had no DBs that could stop him. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Corian Harris was hurt that particular game. So he didn't even play. So it was no back end help from him. Or maybe he did play. I don't remember. And in addition to that, when they would try to gear up to stop Smith, then they start throwing the ball to the tight end. And then they start running the ball again. And then they even start throwing the ball to the big backs out the backfield. So it was like Southern just, FAMU just kept Southern guessing all game, so.
Man.
But yeah, it
If
seems
they
like
compare him up with a speed back.
But that's the thing. I don't know what other backs FAMU recruited, but all the backs I remember from FAMU when they played against Southern, they all had that prototypical power type back. So it's gonna be interesting to see, like you said, if they ever change the pace back, they kind of complement, him or whatever other bigger backs they have at FAMU because, that's one thing I like with Southern. You could take out Carl Ligon and then Kendrick Grimes and Gerard Sims more than likely he's probably gonna be the starter. He's more your power back, whereas all the rest of the backs are smaller jitterbug type running backs. Whereas Gerard Sims, he really, the one cut, kind of similar to this guy except smaller,
Right.
But once you take Sims out the game, then every other back is gonna be a complimentary back to him. Where there's Carl Ligon and Kendrick Grimes, they all like those small jittery bug type running backs, whereas Sims is more your bigger back, that kind of move the chains and make the one cut get upfield. So that's why I was kind of pivotal when he got hurt against Jackson State. You really didn't see him none the rest of the season. I think it kind of affected Southern offense a little bit because he was the back that all the other backs, complimented,
Yeah. He definitely, man, I like him, man. I like him. I think
Yeah.
he's going to cause problems for a lot of SWAC defenses,
Yeah.
especially later in the game when that defense get tired and here come this big joker. And anybody who played defense know what I'm talking about. You tired,
hands on hips, yeah.
It's and you finally get a third down. Here come this MF.
Yeah.
They bring in somebody like Jack West, 6'2", 230. Like, damn, man.
Yeah. And I kind of see why, even what they brought back last year, with Musa and the guys they brought back with him, a lot of people kind of projected them to be, the front runners in terms of winning the SWAC East. Of course, Jackson State, they have a loaded recruiting class, a loaded recruiting class themselves. But, just looking at, what I saw, with the few little players, we saw in terms of on their website and this particular player here, it's going to be interesting to see, which one of those two teams, if either one of them can win that SWAC East between FAMU and J State, because J State recruiting class was loaded, bro. Can't hear you, bro. What you say? You there, bro?
I was on mute the whole time, bro.
Oh my! All right, all right, all
No,
right.
I was saying, I think I found what they're trying to do. So they recruited Jacquez Yant, and then they also picked up a speed back, like I mentioned earlier. And the speed back looks like it's gonna be Kelvin Dean from
Okay.
Florida Atlantic. And I'm trying to find some film on him.
Well, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if, how well those two complement each other. And, in terms of like down the distance and what the scenario and what the situation is, what back they're going to choose. And in addition to that, like which players they're going to have returning from last year's team. Because, like I say, FAMU had some bruising running backs. They just ran over Southern little DBs.
Yes, they
And
did,
they
man.
caused a lot of problems, for Southern defense. They kept Southern defense guessing, all night. So it's gonna be interesting to see like what incoming players they're gonna have, besides these two backs to complement, the players they're gonna have returning. And not only that, but how big a season can Musa have this last year, Because I mean he's a huge part of his success, And not
Man,
only that,
Musa tore my and I'm not saying much, but just how Musa made our Power Five secondary, even though our secondary was trash. As far as my Tar Heels, man, he made them look bad.
yeah. Well,
Musa,
he made Southern DBs look bad too now. So, you can't leave Southern now. Southern struggled against FAMU, Smith and the big tight end and the power running backs.
mm-hmm.
They Southern struggled against FAMU. And the crazy thing about it is, I know like J State put a beat down on FAMU, but with the issues they had with the suspensions early in the year, had some of those guys played that particular game, it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of replay that game and they had all hands on deck, like what type of game it would look like. To me, that's the interesting thing, because
No,
J
you're
State,
right.
J State just had their way with FAMU in that particular game, and if I'm not mistaken, I think that probably was the worst loss they had the whole year. Because, like you said, I think even when they played against the Tar Heels, I think they gave a better account than they did against J State.
Yeah, and that's with like you said, they played us good with only half their team, man. So um, so if they was at full strength, I wouldn't be surprised if they beat us, man.
Yeah, but and the crazy thing about it, it was opposite against J State. J State just smacked FAMU. I mean, it was a point where, I knew we had the show coming up, so I, is watch much of the game as I could. But man, at the point it was like, what if I'm not mistaken, I think it was like 45-3, and I'm like, man, I could turn it to another game because this game is not competitive. I thought, and I was expecting like a real, like barn burner type game in terms of how close it was supposed to be, but that definitely wasn't the case.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't. And next highlight we're gonna watch is the wide receiver kick returning Jamari Gassett for FAMU. So we're gonna see what this young man got only because able to get his high school highlights. But we're
Mhm.
gonna check it out. We're gonna
Yeah.
check it out.
Yeah, he seems like one of those just right off the bat. He seems like a real lively, energetic type kid, you know.
Yep.
Oh yeah, he seems like he's a burner.
And he know he is. That's why he's smiling all the time. Oh yeah, he's one of the ones after he burnt you, you on the ground, he talking
Yeah,
trash, yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing about it. He seems like you know, he has versatility from the standpoint of he can take the top off the defense and just beat you right over the top. He can run a short intermediate route like a slant, crossing route, curl, whatever the case may be, and catch the ball and get upfield. And in addition to that, he's a dynamic punt returner. And like I said, he seems like real lively and energetic also. And, I think in many instances people don't realize in terms of, how far that could take you as a player in terms of, if you're a star caliber player and, you lively and you energetic, you bring a certain kind of energy to your team. Now, of course, some coaches probably wouldn't like to high step him, but it's a different day and age. I don't think, coaches are as much of a stickler about those type of things as they were, when I played ball in school because, high stepping and showboating and that type of thing, it was kind of frowned upon, by some of my coaches. But more than
Yeah,
anything, I mean,
yeah.
and not only that, it seems like he played both sides of the ball also. But
I
one thing,
see that. I just saw that interception him taking it to
yeah.
the house.
Oh, that was a pick six. But the thing about it is, it seems like once he gets the ball out in open field, he is a problem, and it's going to be interesting to see if SWAC defenses are going to be able to corral him because, like I said, he seems like he's a burner. He's a dynamic playmaker. He has a certain degree of versatility in terms of, you might be able to throw him like a bubble screen, a tunnel screen, a jailbreak screen on the outside. Give him a jet sweep. He can return punts and kicks. Like I said, he can run the curls, the sideline routes, the slants, the post route. Or he could just take the top off of defense and run a go route, take off route. You know, different teams call it different things. It was a go route for us. Or even running the fade in terms of just being able to run by the DB. So it's gonna be interesting to see how well he does in SWAC play. But just looking at his high school footage, he a burner.
Yeah, he is a burner. And one thing I liked about him is he wasn't too cute to get to get them extra yards. Him being the smaller uh wide receiver, him being not that tall, not that big. Um, a lot of like for example, Marquise Brown, he'll duck out of bounds or he'll duck
Yeah,
down. He doesn't do that.
yeah.
He'll move. He kept his feet driving, or he'll dive for the extra yards, and I like that. That means he got some dog.
Yeah, and I mean that's definitely one thing that's noteworthy. But one thing we got to take into consideration too, as high school, it's going to be interesting to see if he making some of uh, these decisions when he get on the college level because some of those guys they might have been willing to put their nose down and get those extra yards in high school in terms of getting a couple extra yards. Let's see if he's going to be willing to take that same kind of punishment when he get to the next level.
That's true. That's true. And one more video I was able to find was of Levante Somerset. He's an athlete, and it's from the brother Architect Knights TV.
Yeah, that was the guy we looked at the last time, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
He has some good content. Go
Yeah,
subscribe to that brother, man.
shout
Shout out.
out to that brother, you know.
Cause sometimes Huddle don't have what you're looking for.
Yeah. And I mean sometimes in some instances, you know, I didn't find this out till you know, I coached high school some years ago. You know, some of these guys, you know, they huddle footage is private or whatever the case may be. So, you know.
Yeah, that's true too. I'm glad you pointed it out. A lot of times it's private and they just want the coach that they playing for to see it or the
Hmm.
school. So yeah, you're right about that. But this is Levante Somerset. He's an athlete. So that means we're gonna see what we've been seeing of the other players. He's gonna be all over the field most likely. But let's
Yeah,
see.
yeah, let's see what degree of versatility he has. Yeah, you could mute it, bro. So, you know, so we don't have no issues with YouTube.
Yeah,
You know.
I'll speed it up a little bit.
Okay, yeah, he seems like the speedster jitterbug type. Okay, I like what I see thus far. Now, one thing is going to be interesting to see, you know, once he gets on campus and when he gets to the next level, are they going to use him as a smallish running back? Are they going to use him as a wide receiver? Or, or is he going to be in a hybrid type role in terms of, you know, he's going to play some running back, some wide receiver. They're going to send him in.
He had defensive back right now.
See, and that's the thing about it because, you know, I don't know if you remember Devin Hester, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, Devin Hester, at one point when he was at the U, they really didn't know like what side of the ball he was gonna play on. So he played a little bit of offense and a little bit of DB. But the problem was the fact that he had so much versatility, you know, he wasn't concentrated in one particular area. So even when he got to the NFL, you know, he really didn't have no specific skill set outside of being just extremely fast and a dynamic athlete. He didn't have no real specific skill set. So when he became a dynamic punt returner, he was such a great punt returner. They put him on offense and they stuck him at wide receiver to justify him getting the big bag that they gave him, you know. But it, you know, like you said, he an athlete, but you know, looking at the way he plays, I'm almost certain they probably gonna use him on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, they are.
And like I said, he, you know, they probably gonna, you know, give him some zone read options, some jet sweep.
Oh, he a dog too.
Yeah,
He can wrap up.
yeah. They're gonna give him some maybe screens and
Oh, they put him at quarterback.
yeah, some wildcat. I mean, that's another thing too. I mean, you know, ever since Pat White, a lot of these, you know, athletic type guys, you know, they like to use them in, you know, zone read type game or wildcat type packages, you know. And see that speed, he just was able to run right by the defensive back and just take the top off the defense and catch the goal route, just keep going. Or the seam route in that particular instance. Because he was in the slot.
He burnt the heck out of their defense.
Yeah. So yeah, so I mean that's one thing that jumps off the field in terms of jumping off the footage in terms of his versatility. And he seems like he has some decent hands also.
And good concentration when the
Concentration.
ball's in the air too.
Yeah.
Did the did he change
See,
school, high schools or something? Because
I
one
I
team he was with was like
I
orange or something,
I
orange
noticed that.
red.
I
Now
noticed
he's
that.
with a blue team. He
I
must
noticed. Yeah,
transfer high schools.
he probably did, but in that last play, they threw him a screen. So that's what I'm saying on the next level. You might see him in terms of some zone read action type, some jet sweeps or some shovel passes, some tunnel screens, bubble screens, whatever the case may be. Or even maybe punt returner, kick returner type role. The same as the previous
Hmm.
player. So when you have a guy like that, more than anything, you won't get him reps and polish up some of his raw athletic ability. In this particular instance, he playing quarterback. Okay. And like we said, he's an athlete because as you said, he's played on both sides of the ball. He's played quarterback, running back, wide receiver. So he's a dynamic player. He has a lot of versatility. And, like Mel, I know we in combine season. Like Mel Kiper Jr. said, he's a satellite. You can move him all over the field.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, he ran the hitch and then he turned it into a little slant and he got him some extra yards after he broke a tackle. So, like you say, he has some dog in him.
Yes, he does. Man, fam, I'm going. I see just the caliber of players they bring in. I see why a lot of people picking FAMU to make it to the SWAC championship or ultimately win the SWAC. But my thing is don't sleep on Alcorn, and do not sleep on Grambling.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people like when Grambling was trash last year, but I think Hugh Jackson got something for a lot of the SWAC teams, man.
Well,
He got something for them.
I'm gonna be truthful. He has to make me a believer. I'm not saying that.
Absolutely, of course. I,
Yeah,
I just think they'll get it together.
he has to make me a believer. But in
I could
terms
be
of
wrong.
in terms of Alcorn, it's not like Alcorn was like bottom of the barrel. SWAC.
Absolutely not.
I mean, it was right there in the hunt. They were right there. So it's not like they're not even in contention in terms of being a contender. Uh, so they were right there in the thick of things. That's one thing. But the SWAC this past season, there was a lot of parity. And it was real top heavy, especially on in the West. So Alcorn was right in the thick of things. Which that's the thing about it. You have Southern, Grambling, Alcorn, Prairie View, all on the same side, and it seemed like once J State beat FAMU, they just kind of coasted the rest of the way.
Yeah, they did. They did.
Yeah. So
But due to I would love to sit back and watch every single player. Um, but of course I have things to do, and so do Coach. But I enjoy watching the highlights of these young men. I
Yeah.
think they all of them are going to do wonderful things and make the SWAC very competitive and exciting. Uh, but Coach, before we get out of here, what is your last thoughts?
I mean, we saw a lot of good players. Uh, just overall, from what we've seen from all the recruiting classes, it's gonna be interesting to see how the SWAC West shapes up because Alcorn, they seem like they got some solid players. Southern, it's gonna be a dogfight in the SWAC West. In terms of the SWAC East, uh, it seems like J State and FAMU, they're gonna be neck and neck. And the crazy thing about it, since even though Coach Prime is gone and he's left and he's with the Buffaloes in Colorado, hey, you gotta give TC Taylor props.
You got
You
to,
see,
man.
yeah, it seemed like he brought in a heck of a recruiting class, and don't sleep on, like you said earlier, don't sleep on FAMU because it seems as if they brought in some pretty talented players. So, and not only that, but they were coming into this particular season that's coming up. Many people projected them to win the SWAC East, so it's gonna be interesting to see how everything plays out this upcoming season.
Yeah, and I'm impressed with Jacquez Yant, man. He gonna be a problem, man.
Yeah.
And FAMU got them one. This young man we just watched, Levante Somerset. Um, definitely could help uh lighten or fix that void they're going to have with Xavier Smith. Of course, not quite because he's young, but we never know. He might be a star. You never know. That's the thing. We never know. We have to sit back and watch. But I'm not gonna go that far though. We're gonna sit back and watch.
But
What you
but
about to say, Coach?
but like you said with the Yan kid, with Jacquez Yan, I mean, hey, he looks like he's gonna be a pole in the china shop.
Yeah, a lot of SWAC defenders gonna be end up bouncing off him, man. But
Yeah, yeah.
but shout out to the mighty LDBC. Shout out to everybody who was able to um come in, show us love. Sip the Tally Films, J Bar, I am Trill Will, 78 Sports TV.
The general.
The General, man. I appreciate y'all. Love all y'all. Again, shout out to the mighty LDBC. Coach, what you got going?
Well, I got I'm doing some. I got some projects coming out of pipe. I got this video coming up. My top 5 favorite sports teams. Once we get that edited and everything taken care of with that, I also have another video that's going to be coming following that. My top 5 favorite fighters in terms of current boxers in the game. My top 5 favorite fighters. Also, next Saturday at 2:30 Central Standard Time, I have a new show coming, Bayou Sports Talk, where we just gonna talk about you know sports here in the state of Louisiana in terms of we're gonna talk about
I
the New
love it.
Orleans Saints, the New Orleans Pelicans. So check that out on my channel, Bayou Sports Talk. It's gonna be start next Saturday at 2:30. Like I say, I got a top 5 series coming with my top 5 favorite sports teams, top 5 favorite fighters. So I got a variety of different things coming. So y'all be on the lookout for that. And like my brother said, shout out to the awesome and amazing LDBC. We'll catch y'all on the rebound. Y'all look out for my individual channel, Coach 67 Sports TV. We got a lot of content coming y'all way. So appreciate y'all, especially everyone that's been down since day one. We appreciate y'all to the highest, to the fullest. J Bar and everybody that was in the chat. We're gonna catch y'all on the rebound, catch y'all next week.
Yes, and like he said, I don't care if you a Grambling fan, LSU fan, Southern fan. If you in the state of Louisiana love sports, go please support Bayou Sports Talk. Please support this brother, man. But y'all have a blessed Saturday. Y'all be safe out here. People are crazy. But y'all enjoy the rest of y'all evening. God bless.
Peace and blessings, everyone.